Hi, I'm Zach Rizer, and welcome back to the third part in my pedal reviews and pedal board rundown video series. Today we're going to skip ahead into the distortion realm a little bit and focus on this guy right here, the Source Audio OFD Soundblocks 2 pedal. There is a ridiculous amount of features offered in this tiny little box, so I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, but there's lots of other great videos out there, in particular some by Source Audio that really show you all the subtleties that this pedal offers. But to begin, we'll kind of just talk about the basics. So you get two presets. Each one of these buttons represents a preset that you can save. This is a totally digital pedal. You have a clean blend, a 3-band EQ, 3 levels of a noise gate that you can bypass if you wish, a drive control, an output volume, and then a plethora of distortion modules. So I'm not going to be able to show all of them, but I am going to try to show my favorite ones and kind of how I use them, and then I'll try to show them in a little bit more of a traditional sense of how they might be used as well. Okay, so to get us started, here's my clean tone, as usual, Dingwall ABZ 6-string. This is on the neck pickup. Okay, with a pick, just to hear it a little bit, and dry bass. Okay, so we're going to start with actually one of my favorite settings, which is the tube drive setting. I feel like that this is kind of similar to the Way Huge Pork Loin or other low-gain overdrive pedals. It's great as a boost. It adds just a little bit of coloration. You can get a pretty decent level amount of gain if you wish, but I use it as a very low-gain setting. So this is actually my preset. I'll play a little bit for you here. So this is with the tube drive on. Hopefully you can hear as I dig in or when I play chords a little bit more, that grit comes out, which is kind of what it's trying to emulate, a tube amp being turned up a little bit and having the tubes break up a little bit. But if I pluck softly, it actually cleans up really nice. Here's a relatively dense chord. If I play those same 3 chords again, but I play a little bit harder. The way I use this setting actually 90% of the time is not in a bass playing role, it's in a soloing role, so I'll put a little bit of reverb on here. And without the tube drive, I switched to my bridge pickup, by the way. With the tube drive. Occasionally, if I want to do a slap riff and I want just a little bit of hair on the notes, so without it. With it. I will say, too, that in my experience, whenever you're listening on headphones or direct in, distortions and overdrives always sound higher gain through headphones than they do through an amplifier live. At least that's my experience. Okay, so skipping ahead here, I'm going to skip the smooth tube, power stage, crunch tube. I'll briefly show the tube screamer modeler in here. I'm not a big tube screamer on bass fan, so I just never use it, but it's actually a really solid mod of a tube screamer in my opinion. But here's kind of like a medium gain tube screamer vibe. I want to make sure my EQ is flat right now because I might have something boosted. Okay. So kind of that nasally mid-range tube screamer thing, which helps you cut through in a mix, but I just don't think it's very pleasant on bass. But here's with a pick. Turned up the gain a little bit there. Let's turn my output volume down. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea, but I'm going to go ahead and move on just because I don't personally use that setting very much. Okay, so Big Pie, obviously it's modeling a Big Muff pie. This particular muff I think is actually pretty solid, except it's a little bit on the more aggressive side of the muffs. So if you're looking for that really buttery, smooth cream muff tone, you can kind of get there by playing with the EQ, but I don't feel like this is really what it's intended for. But I'm going to turn the gain up almost all the way to 3 o'clock here. Okay, and then we'll play just some classic muffish riffs here. So classic Muff sound, tons and tons and tons of saturation. Just to demonstrate the EQ here, Muffs have a tendency to get lost in the mix, so we can turn the mids up a little bit and get a little bit more of that cutting Muff sound. Same settings, but with a pick. Cool. And then also, just to show a little bit more of the smoother, creamier side of things here, I'm going to go ahead and max the gain out, and then I'm going to take the mids back down a little bit and do a little bit of soloing up high on my neck pickup with some reverb and delay on. You get that nice, long, pretty creamy muff sound. Like I said, this tends to be a little bit more on the aggressive side of muffs, in my opinion, but it still sounds great. Okay, moving on to another setting that I like and use quite a bit is the Rat mod. I definitely am a Rat distortion fan, and this one is pretty solid for going for the original Rat sound. It doesn't give you that overly aggressive turbo Rat vibe, but it definitely hits the Rat sound pretty good. So here's just a medium amount of gain, and then also I think the EQ is pretty much flat on this particular preset. But whoops, there we go. So just that kind of fun, aggressive rock vibe of a Rat. I also like it with slap. It's got just this kind of nasty breakup that I like with my slap tone. I'm skipping ahead to the Octavia setting. This one actually surprised me. It works better on bass than I was anticipating when I got it. But I'm going to use a little bit of the clean blend here just to keep my bottom end intact. And then I'm going to make sure the EQ is flat here. But I think this is a pretty fun, kind of funky setting here. It's kind of synthy. So here's with the Octavia setting, or I forget what they actually call it. But hear that subtle octave popping out in the top. If I put a little bit higher on the neck, it'll come out a little more apparently. lastly, moving on to the gated fuzz, they say this is kind of, I think, emulating a ZVEX Mastotron. It does an okay job at that, but I actually think it's a pretty well-designed modular for this heavily gated fuzz. So this is going to cut off real quick because it's gated, so if I play the note and then I stop, totally dead silent, nothing in between. So it allows you to play faster, kind of staccato-esque lines. And if you turn the actual secondary gate up all the way, you get a really, really tight gate. And then just as an example, a lot of people like to use gated fuzzes with something like an analog Octavia like my OC2, which you could see in my OC2 video. But here's the OC2 leading into that gated fuzz sound. Very cool sound. One little trick of this pedal that I found that I really like, though, is actually for a synth vibe, more than the gated fuzz setting, I actually like using a big muff with the distortion up pretty much all the way and the gate totally, the selectable gate on high. And it gives you, in my opinion, a little bit more of a square wave sound rather than a distortion sound, which gets you more close to that synth vibe. So similar bassline, but with now a gated big muff setting instead of the actual gated fuzz setting. Okay, and you can hear a lot more of this color if you like it in the OC2 video. I use it and show it with a bunch of other modulations and filters. Otherwise, though, pretty straightforward distortion here, so hopefully you got something out of this video, and if you like what you heard, please subscribe below, and I will be back very soon for another pedal review video. Thanks. Bye.